Generative AI is seeping its way into modern life more and more as of late, and it's becoming harder to ignore for average people. So much so that you have no choice but to integrate generative AI into your daily workflow, else you'll be left behind, and you'll be nowhere near as productive as your peers who do adopt generative AI tools and frameworks into their daily habits, both in work and in their personal life. Recently, OpenAI launched GPT-4o Mini, which Sam Altman says is a big step towards having AI too cheap to meter, playing into this vision that generative AI will become almost like a utility, like electricity and Wi-Fi. Here are 6 ways to leverage generative AI into your daily life, both for your productivity at work and to take laborious tasks out of your personal life. Be sure to listen to all 6 tips because the last tip is probably the most important. The first recommendation is to prime generative AI. This is when you prepare the model by giving it an example of the output you want before you ask the model to generate your output. You can use it by giving it an example like a previous report that you've generated if you want to generate a new report in the same style and structure as the old report. This works because as you interact with an AI model, you are giving it context the more and more prompts you enter, rather than using it like a search engine, which is a more of a fire and forget type approach where you just type into the search field what you want and it returns a bunch of results, and that's about the end of it. Whereas a generative AI model is more conversational and it's more of a back and forth type relationship, where the more it builds context, the more you prompt it in the same chat, and that better informs its response each time, almost like you're talking to a human being, as the more context is built over the conversation. The second tip is to leverage system prompts. This is kind of a follow on from the first tip, where you want to prepare the model for exactly what you want its output to be and make its output more deterministic. As by nature, these generative AI models are all statistics based, therefore their output is indeterministic and random, but there are methods to make it more deterministic, just as the tips I'm giving you right now. The system prompt is essentially a more heavy-handed approach to the first recommendation. In the case of ChatGPT, it involves going to playground.openai.com and it's using the API rather than the ChatGPT product itself. Here's where you can set the system prompt, and this basically constrains the assistant to answer in a way that you will define in the system prompt. Like if you told it to act as a writing assistant, any subsequent prompts will be answered as a writing assistant, and it will stick to that context that you define in the system prompt throughout, no matter how many prompts you prompt in the main chat window. This can be useful when you want the AI to have consistent output and you don't have to tell it every single time in a prompt as it builds context what you want the output to be. Leveraging this can be extremely powerful, as it can save you a lot of time rather than just banging your head against a wall by just creating a new chat every time and losing context from the previous prompts. The third tip is to always be informed as to what the best AI tool is. Right now, recently, as of the time of this video, Claude 3.5 Sonnet is actually better than GPT-4 and GPT-4o in most use cases, and in my opinion has a better business model where you're given a daily allowance of 5 prompts for free to test out the model for your own use cases and to assess for yourself whether the output is better than GPT-4. And in my experience, most of the time it has been, for coding, for writing, and for ideas generation, as well as many other use cases. But that could change tomorrow if they launched GPT-5, for instance. So this is a dynamic industry where there are multiple AI labs competing to launch the best model. Right now that seems to be Claude 3.5, not GPT-4o. And I think GPT-4 is better than GPT-4o for most use cases anyway, while GPT-4 is over a year old now. A lot of its competitors have caught up, so it's worth spreading your horizons to these other AI tools, not just ChatGPT, as they had the first movers advantage and captured most of the market share, which I don't believe they will maintain over time, as there are multiple players now in the game. So keep your eyes peeled as to what people say is the best model and try them for yourself for your own use cases, as it might not always be seemingly the most popular models. The fourth recommendation is to download the native apps for each platform. So that'll be ChatGPT and Claude's native apps for iOS or Android. This gives you really quick and easy access to the models at any given time, as long as you've got an internet connection from your phone. And in the case of ChatGPT and soon Claude, you also have voice assistants directly into your your phone, meaning you don't even have to type most of the time. You can interact with it via your voice. This also means you can create shortcuts on your home screen to apps like ChatGPT to perform functions with those AI tools that you wouldn't be able to do just via the web app, which feels clunky on mobile. ChatGPT also has a native Mac app now, which makes it even easier to access it. And like it, the iOS counterpart is easier to fire up from your desktop. And you can even create a global shortcut on your keyboard to activate ChatGPT with Command-Shift space. That brings up a Spotlight search-like UI where you can ask any question to ChatGPT from anywhere in your system. This makes you far more productive, as you're wasting less time trying to open a web app and then fire up a new conversation. The fifth recommendation is to learn the right GenAI tool for the right job. So this could be for text, images, or voice gen, or even more, soon to be video. So for text, like I mentioned in the third tip, Claude could be the best generative AI tool for generating text such as reports or recommendations for itineraries for your holidays, versus image generation, which Midjourney seems to be the market leader in, generating more variety of images than DALL-E 3. But like I mentioned earlier, this could change at any time with the launch of a new model from any of these AI labs. It just happens to be right now. And this is why it's important to stay on top of it. OpenAI does have a voice generation tool with GPT-4o and Whisper, but 11 Labs seems to be the market leader in voice generation, where you can train your own voices on their models to make a realistic sounding mimic of custom voices. So it's important to understand your use case and what the models each are good at for generating, and figure out what model makes the most sense for your particular job. It might even be a combination of text and voice generation. For instance, if you need to generate voiceover for a video, you can use GPT-4o, which has vision capabilities, to parse the images in the video to generate text or the script for the voiceover, then use 11 Labs' AI to generate the voiceover itself. The sixth tip, and probably one of the most important tips, is to be aware of which tools take your data and which are fully private. OpenAI likes to take all your data and use it to train its future models. Just be aware, especially when working for a large company which has to protect its data, that you're not using sensitive data in these models. However, there are ways now to keep your data private and leverage generative AI, such as using AWS's Bedrock, which is GDPR compliant, with models such as Claude and Llama. And even if you don't want to use a cloud service, you can download smaller models locally to run on your machine with tools such as OLlama, which allows you to download open source models such as Phi from Microsoft and Llama from Meta. And these are pretty good models for dealing with very general use cases, like if you've got a general question, and they will even work offline as they're running locally on your machine. Fun fact, these are called small language models, which is how Apple Intelligence also works, as it's an on-device model, small enough to fit onto your device. I have a video on this very topic, which I'll link in the description, or it will be annotated if you want to find out more. These have been 6 recommendations to leverage generative AI in your daily work life from a software engineer. I hope you found it useful. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. I'm still fairly new to YouTube, so I definitely need it. Thank you very much for watching. Ciao.